In the moonlit embrace of rural Victoria, the decadent town of Buckley beats with a hidden heartbeat, the sanctuary of free-willed kindred. An anarch haven since the gold rush, Buckley's shadows hold secrets, its nights untamed. Yet the looming spectre of the Camarilla now threatens the delicate balance. As long-forgotten feuds simmer, a group of neonates bound by loyalty and survival find themselves at the epicenter of a power struggle. The Camarilla's tendrils tighten, and Buckley teeters on the brink of open war. Welcome to the dance of shadows in Buckley, where the anarch flame flickers against the encroaching night, a tale of defiance, politics, and the seductive allure of eternal power. This is Creatures Such As We, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast, presented by DM Fiat. I am your storyteller, Dale, or DG, and tonight I shall be your guide through this hidden and treacherous world of darkness. Welcome back, my kindred, to Vampire Creatures Such As We. This is episode 2 of our chronicle, and you're currently living out the most traumatic night of your existence, dragged kicking and screaming without your consent into the world of darkness, brutally murdered, buried alive, and brought back as bloodthirsty members of the undead. You've tasked yourselves with unravelling your own murder mystery, tracing your steps back to where it all began last night, and learning the circumstances that have brought you to where you are right now, so that you can understand what happened to you and start to make sense of what you're going to do next. When we last left off, stolen Holden Commodore being driven by Barry screamed through the streets of Buckley, carrying Robert and Gil in the back seat. Robert and Gil as the car screams through the rapidly emptying streets of the CBD and out into the outer suburbs. It's clear to you that Barry is driving like a man possessed, a look of intense determination on his face, mixed with a slight hint of concern, worry. He's determined to get to his family home, and fast. And he's not exactly sure what he's going to find there. It's plainly written on his face. The question I have for you, Barry, is how fast are you driving? Are you taking care to ensure that you get to the destination in one piece, moving steadily there, but paying attention to the road laws, generally not behaving like a bat out of hell? Or are you driving as fast as you can, trying to get to your home as soon as possible to confront whatever awaits?
I think initially Barry is tearing up the road, going pedal to the metal.
Pedal to the metal.
But
He's not... Go ahead.
Once he's sitting down, once he's still, and he's got a bit of time to collect his thoughts and let the initial reaction to what he's re-experienced sort of simmer down, he's started to focus his energies more, and like you said, realize that now he has a mission and he needs to be on his absolute top performance if there's any justice that's going to be done.
Could be an emergency situation. The brightly lit buildings of the CBD move past in a blur, the occasional car passing as well, and until you clear the CBD itself, it seems that Barry isn't paying much attention to his surroundings. He runs a red light once or twice, and at one point there's a very narrow miss where he rounds a corner, tires squeal on the asphalt, and you nearly sideswipe a passing station wagon, missing it by about half a foot. Noticing the looks of concern on your passengers' faces, seeing Gil lean forwards and go, "What's the rush, mate?" You take a deep breath, ground yourself, and start to concentrate, moving less with speed and more with purpose. I'd like you, Barry, to go ahead and make for me a composure or resolve plus drive check to concentrate and find your way to your destination. And may I remind everyone that whenever you roll any sort of roll, you subtract a number of dice equal to your hunger and substitute hunger dice instead. If you get a critical on your roll, either a critical success or a critical failure, and any of those 10s or 1s are on the hunger dice, you must let me know.
So I've got 3 successes, but then I also got a skull. Does that...
3 successes and a skull? As long as you've only got 1, you're fine.
Alright, so
3 successes. You hunch over the wheel, and you're barely aware of your companions talking in the back seat, asking what's going on, what you expect to find at your destination, idly talking about their own fragmented memories, discussing their plans to investigate their own murder sites. You have to get out to the suburb of Platypus Creek. You need to get there fast. Something in the pit of your stomach tells you time is of the essence. And that voice in the back of your mind, that thing that Julian called the beast, compels you onwards, onwards to find what's there, to confront what's there, and bring it to heel for what it's done. Robert, you're sitting in the back seat of the car. There's no seatbelt. There's very rarely seatbelts in the back seat of cars in this time period, especially in a rural town like Buckley. So as Barry's driving rockets the car through the streets, at every turn, every pothole, you find yourself sliding along the seat, jostled back and forth, up and down, like you're riding some crazed carnival ride. Gil simply turns to you and shrugs, and he says, "Well, he's eager to get there, I suppose. Can't say I blame the guy, given what's happened to all of us."
Yeah. That's been pretty important.
Well, I imagine we'll have the chance to check things out for ourselves. Maybe glean some answers for us, but... Well, I don't have access to a car, and nor do you, so it looks like we're along for the ride. And Gil throws his hands up and peers over at Barry, waving his hand to get his attention. He says, "Look, whatever happens, you can count on me, alright?" We get there and there's creepy, crawly monsters or nothing at all, no matter what, I got your back. Right, mates?
Alright.
That's
We
good
need
to
a
know.
plan of attack. This is going to get messy.
So, hope you don't mind me asking, says Gil, but, you know, when I think back to last night, my memory's so fuzzy. I remember the cannery, I remember turning up. I had to meet a mate, we were gonna go make a deal, you know, he says, dancing around the word. He had to get his hands on something. And then next thing I remember, I'm going into the old factory and I've got this feeling that something's watching me. I can't shake it. This intense feeling, and then it's on me. Faster than anything I've ever seen. The terror had me rooted to the spot. Gil hisses, winces as he lets the fragments of memory roll over him. And then he purses his lips, takes a look at Robert beside him, and then at Barry hunched over the wheel. So I don't know what you remember exactly, but if that's what's waiting for us there, some sort of monster, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do. Sooner rather than later, in my experience, is better.
We'll figure this out.
You're a copper, yeah?
Yeah.
You got a gun on you?
Does Barry have a gun on him? I don't think he does.
Yeah, when you crawled out of that Masquerade, one thing that you were missing was your service firearm. You're still wearing the holster, you can feel it under your coat, but there's no weapon.
Not right now.
Bastards who did this to us took it off you. That means they thought there's a chance you'd come after them for revenge, right?
Pretty safe bet.
That means they're gonna be waiting, I think. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't even know where to start trying to get the upper hand on a thing like that.
We need to make sure the coast is clear.
Agreed.
Barry just turns around to the fuzzy-looking gargoyle in the back seat. You're sneaky, right?
Yeah,
Saw him fuck off into the trees back in the park, says Gil.
Maybe you can have a scan of the perimeter. Give us a signal when everything's clear, and then we can enter.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Sounds good to me, says Gil. He flexes his fists, slams one into another. And I'll be backup. I don't exactly know what I'm good at yet in this whole vampire thing. I know you're good at sneaking. He looks over at Robert. I saw you go into those trees. Didn't quite see what happened to you then. But Julian said you like him, and he said you're good at sneaking. Me, I seem to be good at roughing things up, so maybe I'll wait in the car.
Tearing you away from that jogger.
Still don't know what came over me. Before I knew it, he was under me and he was struggling, and the feeling of his heartbeat getting weaker and weaker. Gil shudders. How about I wait in the car till either one of you two calls me, eh?
Yeah, that's what I was about to suggest.
He smiles and nods. Wouldn't have it any other way. I'm out of me depth here, he says. Won't lie to you. Not that you guys seem to be much more with it, I'll add, than I do.
Robert, is it?
Yeah.
What kind of signal can you give if the coast is clear?
So, Robert,
Yeah.
there's one thing you've noticed tonight. You noticed it first when you went into that patch of trees to hunt. When you went searching for woodland animals to feast upon, and everywhere you've been since then, you've noticed one thing, and that's that there always seems to be eyes on you. Not human eyes, animal eyes. A stray cat, a dog on the other side of a street, rodents, rats, a rabbit in the park. And now, sure enough, you peer out the back seat or the back window of the car and happen to meet eyes with a particularly large, furry-looking rat that scurries into a storm drain, its eyes glimmering in the night as it catches sight of the car speeding past. You feel the blood stir within your veins, and instinctually, Robert, you seem to know that you have a way with animals. You're not quite sure how yet. So how do you respond to Barry's question? How do you plan to send a signal that all's clear once you've scouted?
I think I can. Like I have like a way with animals now. Could maybe use that.
So you have a what?
I don't know. I have this like connection to animals now.
Yeah, because you went off hunting for animals in the trees, didn't you? Says Gil. So what? You're saying you can talk to them? Telepathy with them?
I think something like that. Yeah.
Sounds good to me, says Gil. You go off, do your sneaky thing, send a little bird or a dog or a cat, something out. Tell us coast is clear, we move in.
Barry.
Yeah.
Barry would have giggled, but I think he's just all of this strangeness, and his world's just been turned upside down. That now that Robert's just like, I can talk to animals now, is just a minor note.
Yeah, any other
wild nine.
Any other circumstances, all this would be bizarre, surreal. You'd find yourself giggling, laughing at the absurdity of it, but so many things have happened tonight, you just take it in stride. Of course vampires can talk to animals. Why wouldn't they? And so the Holden Commodore finds itself turning into a sleepy street in the suburb of Platypus Creek. Platypus Creek is a relatively new suburb, right there on the edge of the Barnong wetlands, on the edge of the lake. A decade or two down the line, this will be prime waterfront estate. This will be one of Buckley's highest valued suburbs, but now it's barely more than a scattered selection of modern by the standards of the early 90s townhouses and patches of vacant, unpurchased land. And as you turn into your street, Barry, your heart sinks. Your house is one of only 3 on this street, and yours is the one at the very end of the street. At this time of night, your partner would have left a light on. He knows that as a detective, you work late nights. Coming home at 2 in the morning is not out of character for you. He always leaves a light on there on the front porch and in the lounge room so that you have a place to come to, so that you have something to welcome you in from the darkness. But tonight, as the car approaches the house, you find it pitch black, completely dark, and utterly silent. No signs of life. The entire abode cast in thick shadow at the very end of the street, even out of the radius of the street lights.
Barry's just trying to... It's taking all of his effort to pull himself together and not just rush in and get this all over with. But there's procedures, and there's procedures for a reason. And
Don't look like there's anyone home, says Gil, peering through the windscreen.
Robert, you can go have a look.
Robert nods.
Alright.
You stand, Robert, climb out of the car, the engine still idling, and begin walking down the footpath towards the darkened home. There are no signs of life, none that you could see from here, but it would be too good to be true that there's nothing here waiting. That voice in the back of your mind whispers, "The darkness hides you, keeps you safe." Do you give in? Do you activate your obfuscate, or are you going to rely on your wits and guile?
No, I think he's going to obfuscate. He's maybe a bit spooked by the idea of, like, there's someone here waiting for him. Waiting for the others anyway.
The whole package? Unseen passage, or just one of your level ones?
Well, the only one that would work here would be Unseen Passage, so yeah.
Yeah. Alright, go ahead, rouse the blood for me.
That's a failure, so I can hurry.
Do. You feel the pang of hunger shoot up your spine from the pit of your stomach as the voice of the beast whispers, "Now that you're hidden, you can take anyone you like, and they'll never know." You proceed onwards, hidden, concealed in the darkness towards the home, and as you do, I'd like you, Robert, to make me a wits awareness check.
Yeah, I'm going to reroll. It's really just cause.
Reroll, if you like.
Okay, brings it up to 3 successes.
3 successes. I'm going to be rolling for someone who as yet hasn't been revealed, just to see how much you catch of what they may be doing. So let's see how that goes. It's going to be a dice pool of 4 on their half. 2 successes. You got more than them. So you leave Barry's stolen Commodore about halfway down the street, proceed to the house, and as you begin to make your way up the drive, you notice 2 things. First of all, concealed in the shadows, only visible because it's directly in front of you, is a big black van with tinted windows pulled up to the front door of the home. The engine's turned off, the lights are off, and there doesn't appear to be anyone within. The second thing you notice is clear, obvious signs of life coming from within the house itself. The beams of flashlights sweeping past shuttered windows as someone conducts some kind of search within. At one point, as you make your way up the drive and parallel to the van, you find yourself instinctually freezing as the curtain in the lounge room window directly in front of you ripples. The side of it peels back and you see a human figure framed, silhouetted against the darkness, wearing a black balaclava, peering out onto the driveway, checking to see if the coast is clear. And for a moment, you think this person spotted you, and then you realize, as his eyes pass by you, focus on the empty driveway behind you, and then the man shrugs and pulls the curtains shut again, that he cannot see you. So far, you're undetected, Robert. What would you like to do? Do you have sufficient evidence that the coast is not clear, or do you want to try to get closer to the house, search the perimeter, or even maybe try to get inside?
I think he's gonna try and get a little closer just to check the, like, sort of like the front of the house perimeter, like, maybe get us, like, look in one of the windows if any of them are open, or like the curtains are open.
Good idea. Go ahead and make me a stealth or wits plus a dex or wits plus stealth check, and you may add your obfuscator's extra dice.
That's 4 successes.
4 successes. Your boots crunch over dried leaves scattered across the driveway, over the gravel that spills from the garden bed, over the path that leads to the front door. But no one hears you, no one sees you. The first thing you try is the front door, and find it to be locked. Whoever's here has taken the precaution, at least, of locking the door behind them so that nobody can sneak up on them. Next, you try the windows, the ones that look out onto the front yard. The big lounge room window doesn't appear to open at all, and all the others you try are locked, save for one window around the back of the house. You vault over a waist-high fence, trudge through the backyard, and try the small laundry window next to the back door. The back door itself is locked, but the laundry window is not. It slides open at your touch the whole way, and although it's quite a small hole, it might serve as a viable means of entry. The laundry itself appears to be completely empty, cast in pitch blackness. You can't even see the flashlight beams from here, all of them concentrated in the front of the house.
Yeah, I think with that he'd make his way back to the car.
So, back in the car, Barry and Gil are waiting. Gil's peering out the window, whistling, as he waits for a stray cat or a dog or maybe a swarm of rats to come charging out of the shadows to indicate that the coast is clear. And then he jumps back screaming as the back door opens of its own accord and Robert slides into the back seat, materializing as his body sinks into the upholstery.
I just try and reach out to... I should have done this before when he started whistling, but I definitely need to do so when he starts screaming. You just put my hand over his mouth just to show him.
You wrap your hand around Gil's mouth, and immediately he gets the hint. He stops, and you lower your mouth, and he just lets out a laugh. Shit. Wasn't expecting you to be back so soon, Robbo.
Right, I'm gonna remember to turn that off. Okay. Yeah, there are definitely people in the house. They've got all the doors and windows locked, except for I think it was a laundry window.
Did you get any details of them? Were they wearing anything? What did they look like? Or...
It was still only just the one guy I saw, wasn't it?
Saw one guy, yeah, he's wearing a balaclava, but you couldn't get much of a look at him aside from that, because the inside of the house is dark. But he definitely doesn't look like someone who's supposed to be there.
One guy wearing a balaclava, but couldn't see much else in the darkness.
Shit.
Some luck you got, mate, says Gil. To get turned into a vampire and your house gets burged on the same bloody night.
I'm gonna hand over your mouth again.
Touche. So, how do you want to handle this? Go in there, rough them up. God got your back, of course.
I think there was a way to figure out what they were doing there before we...
Wait, Robbo, you said the front door's locked, right?
Yeah.
Well, Gil flexes his fists. Maybe we could make a distraction. I could do something to their van, maybe. Get inside, beep the horn, slam one of the doors, something like that. Get one of them to come out and check, and then, well, I'm sure cops have their ways of getting info out of people.
Maybe. We could sneak in and take them by surprise.
Feel free, but I won't be able to be much help at that, says Gil, putting up his hands. Big guy like me, I make a lot of noise, they'll see me a mile away. But once you're in there, you can call out, I'll come running.
And if they try and escape, you'll be there.
Waiting outside, in case anyone comes running out the door, yeah, sure. Says, I'll tackle him like the guy in the park.
Robert, you can take point when we sneak into the house, and I can give you directions.
Yeah, okay.
Gil nods and he leans back in the back seat, putting his feet up on the back of the passenger seat, folding his arms, leaning back his head and getting comfortable while he waits. And then Robert and Barry head off into the night. Barry, will you be utilising any form of obfuscate as you approach the house?
I do not have any such obfuscate.
Do not. So Robert's going to go ahead. Once again, Robert fades away into the darkness, and I won't make you roll the rouse check again this time, Robert, because you already did it before.
Okay.
You can't see him, but you can see his passage. You can see the dirt kicked up by his footsteps every time they press down on the footpath. You can hear him walking about a foot ahead of you. Robert, you don't need to roll anything, but Barry, you don't have any form of obfuscate that you're using, so I'd like you to go ahead and make me a Dex plus Stealth roll, please, as you approach the house.
Oh, my, you know, it's a failure.
Failure? Would you?
Die.
So in Vampire, at any point, you can spend a willpower to re-roll up to 3 non-hunger dice.
Yeah.
Gonna let it fail, go with what happens. It does add spice to the story.
I've got no choice.
Yeah. Oh, they're all hunger dice. Well,
I don't know why I thought sneaky was a good option.
Well, you're a detective. You've been trained in some form of covert operation. You've been trained in surveillance and how to trail people, and the training kicks in. You didn't account for the beast that hyper focuses on those flashlight beams, on the idea of someone being in your home, on the idea of someone intruding on what's yours, and it urges you to find them and make them understand what they've done. And so you find yourself, in contrast, not really attempting to keep a low profile at all, but just striding up the driveway as if you own the place, and indeed you do, walking right up to the black van. And of course, someone inside hears your footfalls on the concrete. You see the curtain of the lounge room window flutter as someone glimpses you through the crack, and then all of the flashlight beams inside instantly turn off.
I just shout out, "Charge in!" And I leap through, and like a wild animal. I don't really know if that beast is separate from me yet, or if it's just an extenuation of my desire, but I'm giving into it, and I'm just going full pelt now that they know I'm here.
Walk up to the front door, fold your arms, grab it, and try to get it open, finding it locked. But you desperately want to get in there. Will you call upon the blood to break through the door, or as you hear the sound of the car door slamming about 20 meters down the street and hear Gil call out, "Come in!" Are you going to wait a few seconds?
No. We're ripping that baby open.
Alright, go ahead. Rouse the blood to boost your strength.
Success.
Success, you do not get hungrier, but you still feel the beast calling. Yes, yes, come down upon them like the wrath of Cain. Take from them what they took from you. You lunge forwards, grabbing the wire door and nearly ripping it off its hinges, forcing it open and stepping forward, smashing your fist through the wooden door, splintering it and sending it wide open. And on the other side of the door, there's a single man wearing long black cargo pants, a leather jacket, and a balaclava. You see a snub-nosed revolver in his right hand, and as he sees the door burst open, he screams with fright and jumps back, flailing to raise the gun.
I pounce at him like a cat before he can discharge his weapon.
Go ahead and make me a strength brawl check, please. And your strength is still boosted from the previous roll, so add 2 extra dice. Or however much your blood potency allows.
Awesome. It was strength plus brawl, was it?
Strength plus brawl, indeed.
Lovely. Ooh, I got a critical. So does that mean 2?
Yep, so if you have 2 10s, that counts as a critical, and so that counts as 4 successes. The only question is at least one of those criticals on the hunger dice?
No, both of them are good. No, they're good.
Yes, that's
And
not a
then-
messy crit.
Yeah, so that's 7 altogether.
If you had a messy crit, you probably would have pounced on this man and drained him dry on the spot. Instead, you move forwards and wrap your arms around him, pinning him to the wall and delivering a swift punch to his gut. He gasps as his fingers open and the revolver clatters to the ground. Slam your hand over his mouth to silence him, and manage to maintain enough control of your faculties that you don't instantly throttle him to death. Instead, he's at your mercy. Or he would be, if not for the fact that a second man steps out of the hallway behind, immediately sees that you have his friend pinned to the wall, shouts, "Shit! Shit, it's him!" And another man comes charging out of the lounge room, raising a cricket bat above his head. Robert, you haven't been detected so far, and you see this man come charging down the hallway, raising the cricket bat above his head. What do you do?
I think I'm going to try and use the element of surprise he has and just, like, attempt to basically just snatch the career back out of the guy's hands.
Yeah. Go ahead, make me a dex or strength plus brawl check and add an extra dice because you're currently completely invisible to him.
Three successes.
3 successes to his 2 successes.
Oh.
He's gaining on Barry. He's 2 feet away, a foot away, half a foot, and then from behind you step out of the darkness, clenching your fists, You slam one into his solar plexus, and then with the other, reach up and deftly pull the cricket bat out of his hand. He whirls around and sees you there, no longer obfuscated, looks at your stony skin, your gargoyle face, and his mouth just drops open. "Shit!" shouts the man, the third man, as he fumbles for the handgun wedged into his belt, and just as he's about to raise it, Gil comes charging through the front door and brings his fist thunk down onto the back of the man's head. There's a sickening crack as he hits the ground like a sack of flour, instantly out for the count. The man with the cricket bat takes one last look into your eyes, Robert, and then you see his eyes roll into the back of his eye sockets as he sinks to the ground in a dead faint, leaving only Barry and his prey. This pathetic wretch, pressed against the wall, squirming in your hands, his bottom lip trembling as he stammers, we didn't mean anything by it, honest.
You know me.
You're the detective, the copper, yeah?
Why are you here?
We were paid. We were sent here to clean up.
By who?
Dunno, he says. Dunno. It was a woman, long black hair, suit. She said she knew you and you were out of town and we should head in and clean up, and someone had already been here before we got here, already done some cleaning of their own.
Where is everything? Is it in the van?
He nods wordlessly. Your partner and your kid, they weren't here, swear, honest. We came and we found... Look, we found signs of a struggle, okay? No bodies, nothing like that, but there was some blood. There was some blood on the furniture, on the carpet, and we were paid. Clean it up, cover her tracks, yeah? And in return, we'd find a few choice valuables, you know? Not often you get the chance to do a copper's joint, yeah?
As he says that, I'm just gonna slam his head into the wall.
Into the wall. You slam him into the wall so hard that the plaster breaks under the weight of his body. He's instantly unconscious, and if he's not lucky, probably in much worse a state than just being knocked out. Blood pours down the side of his head as his body slinks into the gaping hole you've now made in the wall. Good one, says Gil. He looks over at Robert, holds up a hand. Nice job with the cricket bat.
Thanks.
He lowers his hand, disappointed that you didn't high-five him. Right, so,
we checked
Barry. The van. Right, leave it to me, he says. He steps out of the front door for just a moment, flexes his fist, and rouses his blood, activating his wrecker ability. There's a cacophonous crash as he just steps forwards, punches his fist into the back door of the van, and both of the doors come clattering off their hinges onto the driveway, revealing the inside of the van, revealing it to be stocked with a fair selection of your family's possessions, Barry. Television, VCR, some of the kitchen appliances, but perhaps most interestingly, a cardboard box at the very back filled with VHS tapes, unmarked, and manila folders, huge stacks of them. your case files.
If they're just cleaning up, why would they want that?
Mean anything to you? Says Gil. Not that I know many burglars, but when someone burgs a house, they're not generally looking for files and paper and that sort of stuff.
I'll just quickly glance at them and see if there's anything about the Buckley Bunyip on any of them.
Yeah, actually. The majority of the folders contain all of your compiled information on the Buckley Bunyip. There's a few other cases in there too. Ones that you wouldn't have thought would be connected. Random disappearances, robberies, violent assaults. The unmarked tapes, of course, belong to the security system. The security system you installed. The one that you convinced your partner to install for their own safety. You glance over your shoulder and see the camera mounted above the door. There's no lights. The burglars probably took the security system out when they broke in, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't have still been recording last night, on that fateful night when you returned home.
Robert, are you good with security system?
Yeah. I should hope so. It's what I've been doing the last 15 years.
The TV and the VCR are in the back of the van, still connected, and there's a portable power board at the very back of the van's compartment. This is an old Toyota Hi-Ace. It has, those power points in the back of the van so you can connect power tools without having to drag an extension cord from the house. So, Robert, you plug in the TV and the VCR and you get to work sliding the VHS tapes in, and you know exactly how long these things record, the capacity of each tape, and exactly how much footage you have to skim through. Go ahead and make me an intelligence or wits plus investigation check, please, Robert, and add an extra dice because you're working with security systems that are pretty similar to the ones you work with on a regular basis.
So, intelligence investigation +1 for security system.
+1. Yep.
Only 2 successes.
2 successes. That's enough, though. Despite all of Barry's tapes being unlabeled, it doesn't take you long to figure out which handful of tapes would have had a chance of capturing last night. And a few minutes later, you're standing back from the screen, pressing play on the VCR, flourishing as footage begins to play out the events of the previous night. A black 4-door sedan slides up onto the driveway, the headlights mysteriously off, the windows tinted to a deep onyx black, and out steps him. You instantly recognize him, Barry, the same man who was waiting for you when you returned, the same man who took your family from you. With purpose, he moves to the front door of the house and knocks on it. Your heart sinks as you see the door open, see your partner's face in the crack. He doesn't get a chance to say anything. He glimpses the stranger's eyes, and the stranger waves his hand in the air, supernaturally compelling your partner to let him enter the home. The door opens and he's let inside, and then 10 seconds later, the camera picks up a blood-curdling scream from inside the house. The footage lingers on the front of the house for a few more minutes until the intruder cuts the feed and static takes over. But before it does, you notice, Barry, where he's parked the car, right there on the edge of the driveway, the number plate's in perfect view of the camera. A careless mistake? Or a coincidence? AZH124. Anything you can work with? Says Gil.
Yeah, we got a bit.
You can run that plate through the copper stuff, right? You know,
Yeah.
someone back at station types it in, and then well, maybe that'll lead us to the person who's responsible for this mess. Gil sighs as he takes a look at the empty house. Reckon there's anything more waiting for you in there?
Need to have a look.
Me and Rob will wait here, eh? Give you the time you need.
Robert, can you have a look at the security systems if we do think that my killer really cut the feed? There might be some evidence.
Yeah. Okay.
So you step out of the van again, and Barry, as you step once more into your family home, now feeling violated, dirty, shaken, what are you looking for? Anything in particular?
The man in the balaclava said that there was some blood stains under the struggle. I want to see if I can recreate the scene and get an idea of where Fern or Isla might have been taken.
You step into the lounge room, and it appears that you got here fast enough. They were in the midst of doing their cleanup, but it looks like they left it for last. They were more focused on just stealing your shit, and you managed to roll up on them when they were just about halfway finished. There's enough left that you can construct a partial idea of what happened. You think there's some scuff marks on the baseboard of the walls, a couple red spots on the carpet. So go ahead and make me an intelligence plus investigate check. Meanwhile, Robert, with your expertise of security systems, it's fairly easy for you to find what you're looking for without a roll at all. Just beyond the front door, a bit down the hallway, there's a little closet, and inside the closet is where Barry's set up his security system. And, well, it's very obvious to you what's happened. The 4 wires leading to the central unit have been cut. But they don't just look like they've been cut, Robert. It looks like somebody's just wrenched them free. Though it would take incredible force to do that.
Does it seem like... does it seem like anything was like they might have accidentally like dropped something or left anything near the in that little cupboard, or
Looks
just a bunch
like
of
they
ripped
were
out
pretty
wires?
pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Stepped in, wrenched the wires out, moved on. How'd you do?
I got another critical, but yeah, one of them is from the Hunger Die.
You try to distance yourself. There's the number one rule when you're a detective is you don't get personally involved. You try to take a healthy distance, step back, and think logically. But it's hard. You see the blood there on the ground, you see the scuff marks on the wall, and a sense of overwhelming rage builds up inside you. And rather than using your detective skills to find out where they were taken, you find yourself sniffing the air like a beast, smelling something, smelling the scent of cloying blood. And your heart falls as the beast grumbles. That blood's old. No good. You're smelling the smell of death. Whoever was removed from the room was already dead. It was just cleanup. You could probably follow the trail, but as you sniff the air, determined to pick up on something, you can't dispel that rage inside you, the beast compelling you to find the nearest person, smash them to pieces, to make the world suffer for what has happened. So a few minutes later, you step out into the hallway, trying desperately to regain control of your faculties. There's nothing more for you here. Nothing that you'll be able to find in this state, at least.
I just frustratedly, all the anger at the world and all the anger at myself, rush out the front door and just get on the lawn and just...
Pool of blood begins to build around your head, painting the grass as you weep blood. Your weeps, the only sound in the silent night. And we cross to the other group. Zarya, Wisteria, and Maleficent, strolling across the half-empty car park adjoined to the Parkview Hotel. Well, says Maleficent, that was productive, I'd say. In and out. No one even knew we were there, and... She looks over at Zarya. And you said you traced the phone number to a yacht dealership, Poseidon. You know, I've heard of it. My family considered purchasing a yacht from there, but that was years ago.
Uh-huh.
You're wise to avoid it. They do shit work.
I was going to say the same myself,
I don't know
says
anything
Maleficent.
about yachts, but yeah, that's right.
Toys. But people who care about those. That said, we should probably follow up on this. Wisteria has a pocket watch because of course she does. She pulls it out, snaps it open, checks the time.
It's about 3 in the morning. About 5 minutes past.
The hotel's
Wisteria, as you peer at the pocket watch, you see Maleficent watching you, and she's seemingly reading your mind. She looks up into the sky and she says, by my reckoning, I'd say we have about another hour, an hour and a half before the sun comes up, if you believe what that Julian said.
Zarya is going to set an alarm on her G-Shock.
We'd be racing it. But then what's life without a little risk? It's not too far, is it?
Maleficent smiles. I'm not quite sure. I believe what that Julian said. Maybe, you know, it's one of those things we need to see with our own eyes. Maybe we need to feel the sun's heat and see that it's dangerous before we, start acting like good little boys and girls.
I disagree with that, to be honest.
I feel like if we're going to do that, we need to do that in a safer environment than just...
Controlled environment.
Yeah.
Perhaps. What's pertinent now, I think, is that we find out more information that could lead us to the person or persons who dragged us into this mess. She turns to you, Zarya, and she says, coming here was a good idea, but I still think it might be worth checking out the university, or peers over at you, Wisteria. You said you own a shop up in Lakeside?
I do. How far is Lakeside from here?
So, Lakeside is about half an hour away from where you are, if you were to drive, and you currently don't have access to a car. The Parkview Hotel's on the very southern edge of the CBD, and Lakeside's directly on the northern, past the Rack, past the Botanical Gardens where you awoke.
What's its relationship to the safe house that I've set up?
Yeah, well, your safe house is right on the creek that separates the CBD from Lakeside. In fact, I'm going to turn it on the map.
So, okay, I'll have to go look at the map then.
I'll just put a link to Albert here in the coterie huddle. Your safe house, the little nondescript hotel whose basement essentially is rented out to you in perpetuity, that you usually use for storage of newly imported items, things that are halfway through restoration, things that aren't quite ready to sell in the store. It's not that far from your shop.
Alright. So theoretically we could do go and case the place, then get back within about 10 to 20. I feel it's worth the risk, but I'm not alone. Yeah, I'm not used to working with a team, not when it comes to this. What do you say?
You and I both, says Maleficent as she leans against a brick wall, and in the moonlight you notice her skin is incredibly pale, almost porcelain white. And she says, there was one thing, when I was dealing with that security guard, leading him on, that voice in my head would not stop trying to get me to feed on him, to bite in, and I didn't want to do it up there in the hotel, so gosh, but well, surely you feel the hunger too.
I have. It's talking to me even now. There was only one point where it shut up.
Julian did say...
I'm not sure if I want to repeat that.
Maleficent nods, remembering the events from hours ago, remembering the caretaker's blood drain away, his body growing weaker and weaker, lighter in her arms.
Assuming this isn't all some fever dream, I'm going to have to make sure his relatives get a substantial anonymous donation. Anyway, Zarya.
Yes.
Are you up for further adventure, or shall we play it safe? What's your call? Time is of the essence, but your life could be on the line.
We are new to this still. I don't know. I just kind of fear that we may not quite be as speedy as we would hope unless we plan to stay at this place.
We already have the location. We already have the name of the yacht dealership, says Maleficent. I think that's a good as place as any to start, at least if we're calling it a night here. I wonder, though, if we shouldn't do as Julian said and try to, satisfy this hunger and learn how to do it with restraint.
All right.
Might not be a bad idea.
We've got one solid lead then. My shop can wait. If he's been foolish enough to ransack it, then it shall be easy to track down. Make it easier for me in the long run, actually.
Police officer. Go ahead.
See, the secret is, you never care about having things that you can get back. You care about taking things. That's what keeps it fun. Now, why don't we catch a bite to eat, and then go to the safe house? We've got a solid lead, we've got video evidence, and... Actually, you know what? I'm not feeling that hungry. Why don't we drop things off at the safe house, and then you can range out a bit and eat somewhere?
Well, have a bite to eat, as you said.
Yes.
Maleficent shrugs. But did Julian not say that we should hunt in... what did he call it? The rack? Said we wouldn't need permission, but... well, I suppose very few would be aware that we're prowling around this very night. I just... knowing the situation we're in, I'd rather not run afoul of another vampire.
Alright, let's swing by the rack on the way to the safe house then.
That police officer, he had a mobile phone. Do you seem to recall his number? Maleficent asks as she reaches for her mobile.
I had to race for him. I had to race after him. And I was going to check in, but you can go ahead. I generally try to avoid talking to cops.
Same here.
Maleficent raises an eyebrow. So, well, I think, given the situation we're in, perhaps it might be good to arrange to meet, see what he found, if anything, and then go from there?
You do that, and I'll use that totally an heiress payphone over there to arrange a taxi.
Sure. So, I'll ask a question. What's everyone's hunger at?
Let me check.
Wisteria's mainly going along to supervise on this.
Yeah, just to supervise. And this goes for the other group too, Robert and Barry. What's your hunger looking like?
Oh, Zaria's going to help Wisteria hack the payphone.
Ah, lovely.
What? Oh, Maleficent, do tell whatever his name is to make sure that his team is well fed before they come to the safe house. Yes, yes.
Zaria's at Hunger 3.
Zaria's at Hunger 3. Barry and Robert, how's your hunger looking? Barry at least got a messy crit, so...
Rob's at 3.
Is it 3?
Says Barry.
So, Barry, you're lying in the grass and you feel your phone vibrating in the folds of your cloak. This is what jolts you out of your reverie, and instantly you're grounded again in the real world. You look up. The grass beneath where your face was is painted red with blood, and Gil and Robert are just standing in the doorway of your house watching you quietly, concerned, not quite sure whether they should comfort you or simply let you cry it out. The phone vibrates loudly. Zzz, zzz, zzz. And you quickly fish it out. It's an unknown number, but you have an idea who it is, and sure enough, when you press the button, you hear Maleficent's sultry voice on the other end. Well, investigations have proven fruitful over here, she says. We were about to call it a night. We've got a lead or two to follow up on, but that can wait. The rest of us are feeling... hungry? I guess would be the word for it. We were going to meet up in the rack and see if we can't learn the ropes of how to do this feeding thing. What are your plans on your end? And so you arrange to meet up with Maleficent, to go hunting, to reconvene in the rack. Wisteria?
Yes.
You're strolling through the streets of the CBD. In the early 90s, most things are closed by 3 AM. Even the nightclubs are starting to wind down, and despite this being Buckley's downtown, ostensibly the busiest place in the whole city, there are very few people, and those you do pass are the type that wouldn't think twice about strange, overdressed, pale-skinned people prowling around in the early hours of the morning. As you and Zarya search for a payphone, I'd like the both of you to go ahead and make a wits awareness check for me, please.
Alright. That's one of my good ones. Two successes.
2 successes. And how'd you do, Zarya?
Check. Sorry, lost my.
That's all right.
For a second. That's a
Just take your time.
good one for me too. Right. 4 successes for me.
You suspect Wisteria's never had the need to use a payphone in her entire life, and she almost walks straight past one of them. Right there on the edge of a street, a big orange roof with the telecom logo, calling anyone, signaling to its presence like a beacon in the night, and she just strolls straight past it. You catch her by the hand and pull her back, point out the phone booth, and when she realizes that it is indeed a phone booth, she begins to follow you towards it. However, the phone booth appears to be occupied. It's one of those old-fashioned glass phone booths, the one that's like a cubicle that you enter and you pull the door shut behind you. You can't hear what the person is saying, but the phone booth is situated right on the edge of the street, right underneath a street light, and the person inside is lit up in the bright white haze. Wisteria and Zarya, you instantly recognize her. That same khaki green uniform, same short black hair. It's the woman from the park, the one who came through the gate, the one that you, Zarya, blinked and ran right past. The phone hangs from her hand as she rapidly talks, and her face is pale, her eyes wide, as she recounts some outlandish tale to whoever's on the other end.
Wisteria glances to Zarya, puts a finger to her lips, then points. Does Zarya look?
She does.
When she looks back, Wisteria's gone.
Rouse your blood, Wisteria.
Success. Wisteria slinks in and then realizes, oh, this is really bright. This is really bright light.
Yeah.
Shading her eyes as best she can, she tries to overhear what the woman's saying, but wow, this light is distracting.
Very distracting. And so, as a Setite, while you stand in the bright light of this street light and approach the phone booth, you will receive a penalty to your rolls equivalent to your Bane severity. Luckily, you're invisible. There's no possible way the woman in the phone booth could see you approach, but she could hear you. So go ahead and make me a Dex or Resolve plus Stealth check and add your Obfuscate as extra dice.
X plus stealth. Why would I have anything like that? 2 successes.
Carefully approach the booth, pressing your body up against the door, pressing your ear against it, and you can hear the woman's muffled voice on the other side. No, I don't know. No, I swear, they were dead when I buried them. They all had stakes in their chests, for God's sake, and there was a massive hole. They were all gone. No, I don't know where they went. How could they have gone anywhere? They were dead bodies, for Christ's sake.
Wisteria's going to slink back to Zarya, still obfuscated, and whisper in her ear. We need to grab her when she's done and take her with us. She's in on whatever Mentos.
Zarya,
well, I can go fast. I could jump in.
Yeah, you could wait till she comes out, blink right up to her. She wouldn't have any way of defending herself. But Zaria, you
Wait
can't hear what she's
until-
saying. As far as
Wait.
you can tell, it's a normal, innocent woman using the phone.
Wait and
Well, I saw her though.
You did see her.
we
No,
heard
she's
her.
up the
Oh,
car.
they've all gotten out. Wait until she's out of the light, and then I'll back you up from behind her.
Sounds like a plan.
And I'll move back to the phone booth and wait, covering my eyes for her to finish, then follow her. Well, casually picking up a trash can lid or something.
Zaria. There's no such thing as a cordless or wireless phone in the early 90s. This phone booth is, for all intents and purposes, a landline, and as you gaze upon it now, you can see the long, thick black cable leading from the tip of the phone booth's roof, attaching to the phone lines that run across the street.
Yep.
Hackety hack.
Up to you.
You suggesting I tap it?
You've never quite done it to a public phone booth, but you're sure you probably could.
Oh yeah, no, she definitely can.
We are in the era of literal wiretaps.
Yeah.
Keeping your eye on the phone wire.
Or you could even trace the number.
Maybe. We'll see what she can do.
I don't know if. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to do that from there, but I could definitely listen in.
Definitely. So, you follow, keeping the phone line in view. You follow it overhead, and it leads you down the street into the mouth of a small alleyway between a laundromat and a cafe, both of them closed, thick metal shutters pulled over the storefronts. And
Okay.
there,
I should
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say,
I'm
they're
gonna be
right
looking
there
for
in
a
the
box.
yeah, I was just going to say, right there in the mouth of the alleyway, attached to the brick wall, is what you instantly recognize as a switchboard.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the box, open it, look for the terminals. I'm gonna say that she's got at least some kind of handset type thing. It might just be like there's like an actual like handset that you can use to do that, and she's just gonna plug it in. And
Yeah.
listen.
You ignore the faded piece of paper pinned to the door of the switchboard box that reads "Authorized telecom personnel only." Slide the door open and get to work, and I would like you to go ahead and make me an intelligence plus technology roll.
Good. Let's see. Four successes.
4 successes. You clip some doohickeys to some of the wires, flip a few switches, and then raise your portable handset to your ear and listen in. There's a low, gravelly man's voice on the other end. Damn. Kezia's gonna have my head. She said we were supposed to keep tabs on them, find out where they went. Whole plan's gonna go to shambles if... I don't know anything about any plan. All I was told was bury them, and they were dead. I don't know how you could keep tabs on... They weren't dead, you stupid woman. How could that be the case? That the stakes in their chest... Never you mind. You were ordered to bury them, and to come back 3 hours later. You were told to check in on them regularly, and when you saw signs of the grave being disturbed, to let us know immediately. And I did! It was open, they were gone, and... Now we don't know where they are, you foolish girl. There's a click as whoever's on the other end hangs up.
Alright, blink time for me.
Sure enough, Wisteria, you see the woman swear under her breath as she slides the phone onto the cradle. And then she turns, places her hand on the door, begins to pull it open when... Zarya, go ahead, rouse the blood for me.
She does not get hungrier.
She does not get hungrier. The woman makes about half a step out of the phone booth when suddenly, whoosh! Speeding out of the mouth of the alleyway comes Zarya, moving like a blurred shadow. The woman has just enough time to notice that something's moving. As she catches the movement in the corner of her eye, she whirls around and finds herself face to face with Zarya, who's standing there smiling. What do you do, Zarya?
Should have staked me a little harder, and then she's gonna just gonna hope Wisteria comes around and takes her out.
Should have staked me a little bit harder, you say, as you grab her shoulders firmly, forcing her back into the phone box.
At Wisteria, she's going to bounce off of Wisteria, who materializes behind her. And while her eyes are on Zarya, looks around, grabs a nearby pop bottle, and puts the plastic to her back. Unless you want a bullet through your heart, you're going to come with us and be quiet.
Go ahead, make me a manipulation plus intimidation check.
All right. Well, she's
And
got
get a
Zarya
bonus.
in front of her.
Get a bonus dice to this because, you know, she's well and truly in a situation that she's not prepared for.
Oh, 2 successes.
2 successes. I'm going to roll for her fortitude. 1 success. She looks into your eyes and she says, You're from the park. You were... She's about to spit the word dead through her lips when you silence her with a hiss. And then she just nods silently. The look in her eyes tells you she will go wherever you want her to.
Wisteria shrugs out of her blazer, throws it over her, adjusts things so she's holding the pop bottle with one arm and under it, and says, You've had a bit too much to drink. Play drunk. We're going to call a taxi, we're going to get into it, and we're going to have a long talk. Once we get to where we're going. If you want, Zarya can beat you until you're punch drunk.
She opens her mouth to say something, gets the first syllable out, and then shuts her mouth again, nods, and as you guide her towards the street...
Zarya, call a taxi, what do you do?
Zarya does that.
Yeah, Zarya's already on the phone, already dialing the yellow top taxis, and as you guide the woman towards the corner of the street where the taxi will soon emerge, she's making a half-hearted effort to pretend to be stumbling, shuffling alongside you. What's this all about? She says, as you reach the edge of the street and stop and wait.
Well, who were you calling, dear?
An employer? She says.
Money.
Uncertainty
Yes.
on hanging on the word.
You work for money?
No, I work for the Buckley Council. I look after the gardens in botanical gardens
and the Buckley Council pays you to bury dead bodies in their lawn.
No, but well, sometimes some people need favors done, and I'm in a good position. And she looks over at you and she says, They offered $3,000. They said I would be given something and I had to bury it in the garden, and then I just had to keep an eye on it and sit on it for the night.
3,000? You work cheap.
I didn't think what I buried would come back out.
There's 2 ways this night can end. One is you waking up with a headache and a number for an account with $5,000 in it. And the other one is you waking up in a very dark room with some very angry people who have very harsh ways of getting answers. And no money. And possibly not leaving that room.
Zarya steps up behind you as you say this, and the woman notices her. Her gaze drifts over to Zarya's face, and then she just
And for the record,
nods,
she's not one of
swallowing.
them. She's usually nice. Usually. So,
She quickly
Let's start with
weighs
your-
her options, and then
Let's
she
start with-
looks up at you with a pleading look on her face and says, "Okay, whatever you want, whatever you want."
I'll do a quick insight just to make sure she doesn't think she's got any chance.
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Roll an insight check.
Insight plus wits.
Yeah, wits plus
Okay.
insight.
And we're out of the light. Yay.
You are out of the light now. Back to your normal
It's been-
operating capacity.
It's been a 2 success kind of night.
One thing is clear to you. This woman is terrified. She's doing a reasonable job of trying not to show it, of trying to seem cool and calm and collected, but you could hear the fear in her voice. You can see the way she's staring at Zarya, eyes wide. And Zarya, I'm sure every time she stares at you, you sort of wink or smile back at her, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, but it looks really ominous.
Really ominous.
Now,
You don't
let's-
know if she's willing to spill everything. That's beyond the scope of how you could read her, but it's clear to you she's genuinely very scared.
Let's keep this short and succinct. Who are these extracurricular employees of yours?
It depends on the task. She says,
For this
This is-
particular task.
Kezia. She says, do you know that name? Kezia?
Tell me about them.
I've never met her. I've heard her voice over the phone, but only once. When she has things for me to do, she passes her orders through an intermediary. I know him only as Mr. O.
Oh dear. That's rather vulgar. Alright. Good to
He
know.
tells me what to do, I do it. The money ends in my account, and usually that's the end of it.
Alright. What else have they had you do?
Nothing like burying dead bodies, just... She thinks for a moment.
I'm betting it's... Oh no, I want to see what you say.
You're not cops, are you? She says.
Oh God, no.
Oh no. But there will be one if you don't answer to our satisfaction.
So, the Botanic Gardens are good for growing certain commodities. No one asks questions when they see a groundskeeper going about her business, and sometimes all I have to do is take a certain quantity of a certain thing that grows in the Botanic Gardens, put it in a bag, and leave it in a location where Kezia's man will find it.
Is it the same location every time?
Different. She shakes her head.
Okay, they're on the ball then. Okay, this is of little interest to me. The phone number for Kezia, please? Or whoever you were talking to.
I couldn't possibly. She says that these people are not the kinds of people you mess around with.
Yes.
If I'm already
dear-
in hot water because she
They're
trails
not
off.
here right now. And we are. And for the record, I can go back to that telephone and check the last number dialed. So you'd best tell me the right number. I'm asking you now because I don't want to go through the trouble of doing it. I'm being nice.
Make
Well, actually,
me.
she's just gonna ask me to do it.
Yeah. Make me another manipulation plus persuade plus intimidation check,
Intimidation.
please.
I should have put more points in this.
You know, Sedites usually have less direct means of getting things, but Wisteria hasn't
Well,
quite
I
settled
don't know
into it
that.
yet. No, not yet.
And that's not the way I operate. 2 successes, keeping a trend going here.
2 successes. She closes her eyes as A million different scenarios run through her head of the things you could do to her. And then another set of scenarios runs through her mind of things that Kezia and her agent could do to her, and she wages an internal battle before she sighs. 04364017.
So, dear, did you get that?
I did.
Good.
I was told never to contact. They always call me, not the other way around. Emergencies only.
All right. Oh, Maleficent, dear, are you around? Sorry, she would ask that.
Maleficent steps out of the shadows. Indeed, I am.
I'd rather not owe this smelly little thing $5,000. Could you take care of it, please?
My pleasure. She holds out her hand, and the girl, after a moment of hesitation, takes it. Maleficent leads her into the shadows of a nearby building, and you hear her command, firm and clear. Forget! The
Now, let's
woman
be off
shuffles
before
away
she-
into the night.
Now let's be off before she remembers, shall we? Before she sees us again, shall we? Oh, here's
You
the
hear-
taxi.
Yeah, you hear the sound of the wheels crunching on the asphalt as a bright yellow taxi rounds the corner. Evening, ladies, says the driver, waving through the wound down driver's side window. Where to?
Well, it like
To
oil,
gardens,
like paint,
please.
like paint spilled in water. Wisteria's skin regains its pinkish hue, and she starts breathing again, without feeling any blood loss. She buckles her blazer, casts aside the Coke bottle, and slides in. Gods, yes.
Zarya, knowing that you're going to be riding in the taxi for at least the next 10 minutes, in close proximity to this mortal, would you like to do the blush of life? Just as Wisteria has. Just to be safe. Up to you.
That's a rouse check.
Just
right?
a rouse check, and it remains active for the rest of the session as well.
I think she's actually just gonna pull up the hood on her.
Yeah, pull up the hood.
jacket.
It's dark in there, sure.
The driver's eyes linger on Wisteria for a bit, and he opens his mouth as if he's about to comment on her pale skin, but then a second later, she looks perfectly normal. The driver decides it must have been a trick of the light. He presses a button and the back doors click, unlock. Yeah, climb in, he says. I'll be there in a jiff. Clamber
Excellent.
into the taxi as it carries you into the night. And about 10 minutes later, the taxi drops you off right at the edge of the rack, about a block away from the botanical gardens where all of this began tonight. The taxi rockets to a stop and you climb out onto the sidewalk as you see Barry, Gil, and Robert walking down the street towards you, ready for their night of hunting. Before you go feeding, let's roll back a few minutes. The stolen Holden Commodore winding its way from the outer suburbs back to the CBD. Barry's been utterly silent since you left his home. He answered the phone, answered Maleficent's call, agreed that your two groups should reunite, but he did it without uttering a word of his own. Simple nods. Yes, yes. I agree. And now, Robert, as you ride once again in the back seat, this time not being jostled around as Barry drives at a more sedate pace, it's clear that he's lost in thought. Barry, what's on your mind?
I think he's, having seen what the beast has really done to him in compromising his investigative faculties, which he's held so dear throughout all his life, and how it's failed him in the most crucial investigation of his, well, unlife. Now that he's had some time to settle down a bit, he's taking more notice of what's going on around him and what's going on with the people who are in the car right now and who've helped him, saved his bacon, pretty much. He's just once he's lost in a thought, and then all of a sudden, like 5 minutes before we pull up, he just says a word of thank you, both of you. I'm sorry I had to say that.
I'm real sorry, mate, says Gil, shaking his head, and there's genuine devastation on his face. I don't know what you saw in there exactly, but you know, I can put two and two together. You got a family, right? And they weren't in that house, so I'm sorry, and I'll do whatever I can to help you get to the bottom of this. I think I speak for Robert too, don't I, mate?
Yeah. Can't imagine what you're going through.
Do any of you have families?
Gil shrugs. You know, not really much of a family man. I sort of end up as a lot of people's family friend, but never really had the chance to settle down myself.
You, Robert?
No partner or anything. Just my parents, siblings.
Yeah, a bloke like you taking the graveyard shift working security. You're not much of a family man either, I could tell, Gil says. But just 'cause me and Rob ain't got families doesn't mean we don't understand what you're going through. We've all been through a lot of bizarre shit tonight, and the last thing any of us wanted was to find out people we care about are, you know, he trails off as his head sinks. We've got enough to be going on with as it is.
I couldn't have done it without you.
Well, we're all in the same boat, aren't we, Robbo?
Yeah, we're all gonna find out what's happened to us, so.
Hey, there's the girls, says Gil, pointing ahead, and a few minutes later, you're once again face to face with them. Maleficent, Zarya, and Wisteria.
Hello there.
Ready for a night on the town, says Maleficent, such as it is.
Read the room a bit.
Call it a night out in town in Buckley.
Oh, well, we've got to find some way to entertain ourselves and attend to, the hunger. She peers over at you, Barry. And she seems to read the look on your face. All talk of a fun, entertaining night on the town suddenly stops, and instead Maleficent just says, maybe you need to get your mind off things. Penny indeed drops.
Listen, I'll keep it terse. You've got a lot on your mind. I've arranged shelter. These things in our heads are troublesome. We cannot go to... If indeed we go to sleep, we cannot go to sleep hungry. I feel this. Take care, do what you need to, and I'll be awaiting with a summoned car on that road there. Yes?
Maleficent nods. Well, you have your marching orders. Let's make sure we go to bed on a full stomach. Like Julian said. We have to learn. If we're going to be stuck like this for any amount of time, we need to know how it all works.
Zarya, was it? Please come back a bit
Yes.
early if you can. We have things to discuss. Insurance policies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this over with.
So, hunting. Your first hunt. Not the first time feeding. Those memories, even though they happened hours ago, they're still so fresh that you can still feel those weakening heartbeats, those dying bodies. This is your chance to do it properly. And she's right. If you're going to be stuck like this, it pays to get into a routine. So, here's your question that I have for you. The rack. The rack is a part of the city, as Julian said, where most vampires can hunt without worrying about stepping on other vampires' toes. It's nobody's domain. This is the part of town where all the nightclubs and bars and brothels are. It's the entertainment district. It's where the mortals gather. And that means it's free game for anyone. So, where would you like to hunt? Perhaps you're feeling in the mood for the quiet atmosphere of a late night bar or cafe. Maybe you want to feel the adrenaline and sweat of a nightclub, or perhaps you want to avoid contact with humans as much as you can and hunt on the streets.
That would be Zarya's pick.
Yeah, and you don't all have to pick the same hunting method as well. So Barry, Robert.
I think Barry's gonna try and find a quiet street or alley between two prominent bars. Sort of to collect his mind over and go over the night and go over the information and try and piece it all together, but also if anyone comes by, he might have a layout of like all the blind spots of police surveillance that he can manipulate to his own will.
Yeah, and Robert, how about you?
Yeah, given his new appearance and everything, he's probably gonna lurk in an alleyway until hopefully someone's alone, and then try and jump them, basically.
Yeah. Gil slams his fist into an open palm and he says, well, there's one thing I've learned. If you're looking for certain commodities, you're generally going to find them at the local nightclub. So, if you don't mind, I will go and take in some of the local acts and catch you all later. He walks away.
The more you talk about everything that you do, the less I feel that what you do is as wholesome as you portray it to be.
Yeah, but that's just the copper in you, innit? He says, smiling, winking, as he turns.
He's not doing that.
So, you've all decided in some way or another to stick to the streets. You're not really feeling like heading into the buildings. You don't really trust yourselves being in close proximity to large groups of mortals. And with the beast in the back of your mind telling you to find them, dash their heads against the stones, take the warm blood, revel in it. Embrace your true natures. You realize that's probably a good idea. The cobweb of tiny pedestrian streets connects the outer portions of the CBD to the entertainment district of Buckley, such as it is. The apartments here are uglier. There's a smell of ripe rubbish and vomit and sweat. Cheap motels, off-licenses, and betting shops appear to be the only businesses still open, and one street corner is crowded with missing persons posters layered over a red brick wall. I'd like the three of you to go ahead and make me some wits awareness checks, please. I understand you all do have predator types, but these don't really kick in yet. Those come into play when you fall into the routine of being a monster. This first hunt, you're playing it by ear.
So who wasn't making the wits awareness checks?
So it's going to be you and Barry and Zarya.
Okay.
2 successes.
2 successes.
2 successes here as well.
2 successes and 4 altogether so far. Let's see if you can get above 6.
Ooh, 4 successes.
Ooh, very nice. 8 successes altogether. So, you're not really hunting as a group, but you're not really hunting separately either. You stay in sort of close proximity to each other. Zarya strolling with purpose down the empty streets. Robert sticking to the side streets, the alleyways, and the shadows like a spider waiting for his prey to present itself. And Barry goes into full detective mode. It's like you're searching for a suspect, moving with purpose from one vantage point to the next, stopping, carefully examining your surroundings, taking into account every possible vantage point, any means through which someone could see you, from an overhanging building or a window or the mouth of an alleyway at the end of the block. And eventually, you each come upon potential prey. Barry. A middle-aged woman in blue shuffles along the dark street towards you, the flash of her analog camera illuminating the night briefly. After she takes a shot at the building directly in front of her, she notices you standing there. She turns around, sees the Victoria Police uniform you're still wearing, as covered in grime and dirt, dishevelled as it is, and she smiles. "Evening, officer."
Evening.
"Oh, you're a sight for sore eyes, I'll say myself," she says. A little old lady such as me, just wanting to take in some of the night sights, you know. These streets can be a bit unsettling. It's nice to see the police taking their job seriously.
Barry's just weighing in his mind. Will I really want to feed? That's the word. Feed on an elderly woman?
She's old. Her skin deathly pale, covered in age spots. You're sure if you touched her skin it would have the consistency of paper, of autumn leaves. And yet, as she talks, you can see the blood vessel in her neck throbbing, positively vibrating, calling to you as warm, fresh blood circulates through her body, and the beast begins to purr in anticipation. "Officer, I have one more photograph to take," she says. "I want to catch the entrance, the big gate of the botanical gardens at night. Have the trees framed behind it, you know. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd feel much safer if you would accompany me just until I get it done. And then I can call a taxi and get back to the safety and warmth of my home.
No worries.
You agree to follow her, and you trail her as she makes her way down the street, taking a few more photos of some of the open alleyways, some of the vibrant graffiti splayed over the brick walls. She stops and takes a photo of a late-night cafe, catching a couple of people entering through the front door, and then, after about 10 minutes of trailing her, this whole time being acutely aware of the blood, fresh, tasty, warm, pumping through her body, you come to the end of the street, to the botanical gardens, to the place where only a few hours ago you took your first steps into this world of darkness. She parks herself right in front of the thick wrought iron gates, readies her camera, steadies it, and prepares to take the shot. The street is empty, silent. It's just you and her. Even your companions have been left behind. Now, says the voice of the beast. Now. What do you do? Is she the one? Or do you want to try to find someone else?
Surely not. It can't be. It can't be an elderly woman. It's not. It's not right.
And so, if you'd like to resist, I'll ask you to make a composure plus resolve check.
On my best. Composure plus resolve, was it?
Composure plus resolve.
So that's a 7.
7. Not her, you think. Not her. You find yourself stepping towards her, your body moving of its own accord, and then you ground yourself, force yourself to stop. The camera whirs, the flash illuminates the surrounding area. "Ah, all done, officer," says the woman. She whirls around, but you're already gone. "Oh, officer?" You continue on through the streets, a bit more, trying, waiting to find anyone you can. You've let the old lady lead you a fair bit away from the rack itself, and you get the feeling that it's going to be a bit harder to find exactly the kind of prey you're looking for. A young man with a shaved head wearing a Collingwood football jersey staggers down the street. As he sees you, he raises his hand and whoops with delight and then promptly trips over a wheelie bin, swearing loudly as he attempts to extricate himself from the pile of trash that's spilled around him.
Level of intoxication is adequate. Level of disgust lessens my moral scrutiny.
As he sees you... Go ahead, sorry.
I just said he might be perfect.
Might be perfect. As he sees you walking towards him, his eyes light up. He extracts a half-eaten chocolate bar from the seat of his pants, throws it aside and calls out to you, "Hey! Can the pies? Hey!"
I just wordlessly, is he, are we out of surveillance?
Look around. The street is empty, the coast is clear, there's some distant lights glimmering on the upper floors of some buildings at the end of the street, but no one can see you.
Lovely. I'm just going to grab him and take him into the alley.
He thinks you're about to go for a high five when you raise your hand. He raises his own, and his cheer quickly turns into a scream of shock as you clamp your fingers hard around his shoulder, pull him to his feet, and drag him into the mouth of a nearby alleyway. Your teeth, your fangs pierce his flesh. He stops screaming, he stops making any sound at all as he freezes. The ecstasy overwhelms him, and you just hold him in your arms as you take it. The blood slides down your throat, the sweetest thing you've ever tasted, and the beast purrs. You feel the man's heartbeat growing weaker and weaker, and... Barry. Is he going to survive tonight?
Yeah, he's going to survive.
More, whispers the beast. You grit your teeth as you wrench the fangs out of his neck and push him away. He looks at you for a second, pale, wavering on the spot, and then promptly collapses to the floor from exhaustion and blood loss. His breathing and heartbeat weak, but he's alive. You may lower your hunger by 2. In addition, as you turn towards the mouth of the alleyway and begin to walk towards it, you suddenly feel the full weight of your body seem to take over. You seem to lose control of your own muscles and stumble as you nearly faceplant into the concrete. Your vision begins to blur, and you start to feel very lightheaded as the copious amounts of alcohol in this man's system begin to flood through yours. Chuckling to yourself in spite of it all, you stagger away into the night, and I'll make a note that you fed from someone who's very drunk. Robert, you're doing your best to remain unhidden, Robert. Are you employing your obfuscate, or are you just sticking to the shadows?
Employing... It's not going to be... Trying not to spend any blood, so he's just going to be using Cloak of Shadows to, like, hide in the darkness.
Yeah. So that keeps you hidden as you...
Do that one for free.
You stick to the mouths of the alleyways, the base of the huge buildings, never straying from the shadows. If anyone sees you, they don't recognize you as human, perhaps thinking you're a stray cat, or a large rat scurrying in the darkness. Before long, you come to potential prey. Beneath a hanging lantern at the end of a street, a casually dressed young woman is on a mobile phone, in the middle of a heated exchange. Well, no, look, okay? Membership's $40 a month, alright? You can take it or leave it. I know your name's not on the list, but mine is. And if you get it through anyone else other than me, you're gonna be paying $60. I know 20's not much, but you said you wanted in, and this'll get you into the VIP area. You just have to trust me on... She's cut off mid-sentence. Alright, suit yourself. She lowers her phone, glancing around suspiciously. And then she goes back to her phone screen, composing an SMS message, perhaps to the person who just angrily hung up on her.
Yeah,
What do you do?
Yeah, he was waiting for it to at least get off the actual phone call. realizing that that could be a problem if he did it mid-call.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, it's just also spending that time sort of internally just sort of, I guess, psyching himself up of like, this is what you are now. You have to, just gonna have to get used to this. I don't look like the others anymore. I don't look human anymore. I don't have the luxuries that everyone else has of still looking human. And then, yeah, as she's composing her message, just tries to grab her.
The longer you watch her, the longer you wait for the phone call to end, the better a look you get at her. She's standing right under a street light. You can see her perfectly, and the longer you watch her, the greater your realization is that this woman is perhaps barely a woman at all. 19, 20. She's very young, very pure. And you pause for a moment as the voice in the back of your mind tells you to proceed, and you ask yourself, do you really want to? Take her. She's alone and untainted. Fresh, nourishing, pure. What do you do?
I think realizing how young she is, he'd second guess and stop.
Go ahead. Make me a resolve plus composure check.
Ooh, 3 successes?
3 successes. She's young, but you feel like you have enough control of yourself that you could ensure she lives. It would be quick, over with before she even knew what was happening. You take what you need and you leave, and she need not know her life was ever in danger, but still, she's young, she's naive, she's innocent.
Second. No, he goes for someone else.
Fuck you then, says the woman under her breath as she sends off the SMS, unaware that a monster briefly considered preying upon her. We continue on for a few more minutes, and how many successes did you get on your check before? It was 4 successes, was it not?
My wits awareness.
Yeah.
Yes, it was 4.
You eventually get off the street, begin making your way through an alley, trying to cut through a city block to the more bustling, wider street on the other side, the place that feeds into the popular nightclubs and bars. You'll no doubt be able to find someone there, someone who you would have no compunctions drinking from. As you're making your way through the alleyway, you stop as you see a big man in a luminescent-coloured jacket, big man in a high-vis vest, making his way down the alleyway. He stops in front of a big green dumpster, a heavy key ring jangling from his hand. He leans over and begins to fiddle with the padlock on the dumpster, absent-mindedly humming the tune to a popular grunge song as he goes. His hair long, dishevelled and wild.
Yeah, Robert is going to go for this guy. He's a little more at ease at the bit bigger and...
This man's big, stocky, muscular, typical tradie build, but perhaps a little bit extra as well. go ahead and roll me a dex stealth check and add your obfuscate as you creep towards him.
Five successes.
5 successes. With footsteps silent, you move towards him, carefully stepping over discarded VB bottles, shards of glass, and other trash. And then you're on him. Just as the key slides into the lock and the padlock detaches from the dumpster, your arms wrap around his body, pulling him back into the shadows. He opens his mouth to scream, but one of your skeletal hands is already over his lips. You bare your fangs and sink them into his leathery skin, taking his life force. And earlier you fed upon animals, and you're not prepared for the potency, the sheer pleasure of human blood rolling down your throat. It almost feels as if you're alive, as if your heart is beating again 1,000,000 times a minute. Euphoria, unlike that which you've ever felt, surges through your nervous system, and you lose yourself in the moment. And I'm going to have to ask for a resolve plus composure plus a third of your humanity to force yourself off him before you take it all.
And a third of humanity 8 becomes 2, doesn't it?
Becomes 2.
Yeah. Oh, geez, 6 successes.
6 successes. His struggling grows feebler. His breathing laboured. He gurgles in the back of his throat, drawing ever closer to death. Do you wish to stop?
Yeah. He doesn't want to kill the guy.
Wrench your fangs out against the protestations of your beast. Lean over and instinctually feel your tongue coming out, licking the fang holes on his neck closed. And as he gasps for breath, there, crumpled at your feet, you turn and leave. You may reduce your hunger by 2.
Nice.
Zarya, you're strolling down the street, your fists clenched, ready to blink and take the first person that you see. You're not the only fast one out on the streets here tonight. You hear someone counting down somewhere ahead of you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A very fit athlete jogs in the middle of the night past a couple of closed cafes in your direction. He doesn't seem to notice you there, at least not yet. Hyping himself up to keep going, sweat-drenched hair, skin red with exhaustion and physical exertion. What do you do?
Was that for me?
That's for you.
You said there were other people? Or is it just you?
There's some people in the cafe at the end of the street, but you're not sure whether they're looking out onto the street, and in a few seconds, the athlete will have jogged right past, and will be out of the eye line of anyone who might save him.
Well, I'm gonna wait until he's out of sight, and go for it.
Come on, Benjamin, he says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, you're an Iron Man. Come on, you've had your Nutrigrain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He pushes himself to keep going, sweat running down his brow nearly the same shade of red as a ripe tomato. In a few seconds, he'll be passing you by. He sees you there, raises his hand and nods at you in acknowledgement. Too tired, too in the zone in his jog to even breathe the word hello. And as his eye line meets yours, what do you do?
I raise my hand like I'm waving, like she's waving hello back, and then charges him and forces him to the ground with that hand.
Will you be blinking, or will you just be reaching out, grabbing him as best you can?
I'll blink. Is there like an alley or something?
Yeah,
near
there's
the cafe?
there's an alleyway between the cafe and a miscellaneous shuttered building next to it. You could, with a little bit of effort, blink right to him, grab him, pull him into the alleyway, and no one would be none the wiser. Go ahead and rouse your blood.
I do not get hungrier.
Do not get hungrier. Go ahead and make me a strength or dexterity plus brawl check, and you may add your celerity as bonus dice.
Strength. Was it strength athletics?
Strength? Oh, well, we can say athletics as well, because you're just trying to corral him into an alleyway. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. And then plus my celerity.
And plus your celerity.
4 successes.
4 successes. 4 successes to his 4 successes. He hesitates for a moment, as if considering to stop and give you a proper greeting. He probably wasn't expecting to see a young, trendy-looking woman at this time of night. His lips twist into a smile as he considers briefly picking you up, and then before he makes his choice, you rush forwards in a blur. He barely has time to open his mouth in shock before your hands are on him, pushing him into the alleyway, pushing him off his feet, and he sprawls, lying on his back, looking up at you, and then you set upon him, and he struggles. This man is fit. You're convinced that the only reason you're able to eventually get the upper hand is because he's exhausted, because he's already been pushing himself so hard already this morning. This doesn't stop him from rapping his knuckles into the side of your head, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and before you finally manage to subdue him, you take 1 point of superficial damage. But then he's done. You grab his hand as he goes to hit you for a 4th time, pin it by his side, open your mouth and sink your fangs into his neck. Yeah, take it all, begs the beast. Take it all. Make him pay for raising a fist against you. This pathetic mortal has no idea. Will you be draining all of his blood, Zarya? Or will you be showing some restraint?
I think she's going to try and show some restraint.
Luckily, you've already fed from a human earlier tonight, so it's much easier for you to wrench control of your body, take the reins from out of the hands of the beast, and as much as you'd love to keep going, as much as you'd love to show this man the error of his ways, teach him a lesson about playing with monsters, you grit your teeth with determination and wrench your fangs out of his blood vessel. As soon as he's free, he grits his teeth, clenches a fist, and makes a move to hit back at you, spluttering the word freak. But your celerity takes hold. You whirl around, a fist of your own already clenched, and thunk! A quick blow to the back of his head, and he's out for the count. You may reduce your hunger by 2, Zarya. And then you turn and make your way to the mouth of the alleyway, wiping the dregs of blood that dribble from your bottom lip, disappearing into the night. And 4 well-fed monsters depart from the rack this night. It's about 10 minutes later, just shy of 4 a.m, when the long black limousine summoned by Wisteria pulls to a stop in front of the Grand Star Motel, right on the very edge of the CBD, up against the side of a creek, surrounded on both sides by run-down-looking warehouses. This is the type of motel where people don't come because they need accommodation. This is the type of motel where people come because they want to come discreetly, literally. But the basement belongs to Wisteria. The driver silently nods as you depart from the limousine, and Wisteria begins to lead you towards your so-called safe house. And as you all take in the sight of it, of this very sleazy, dirty, decrepit motel that barely looks like it's accredited at all, you wonder how someone such as Wisteria could even think a place like this would be safe for a group of freshly embraced vampires.
Don't worry. Like my first boyfriend, he cleans up a bit once you examine the lower bits. Shall we?
Wouldn't be the... Go ahead.
A complex like this been talked about in the police investigation that I've...
That's more of a Vice Squad thing.
Yeah.
You've never been to one in person, and you, Barry, you sort of feel an instinctual disgust in the pit of your stomach as Wisteria joyfully leads everyone up the long cobblestone path that leads from the street to the car park of the motel itself.
Quick check. Is anyone not running the blush of life? Oh dear, Robert.
Yes. Before you get that far into the car park, Wisteria just pauses, pondering Robert. And it's very clear, Wisteria, with a face like that, you'll get 1 foot through reception before the guy behind the desk either screams, grabs for a weapon to defend himself, or tries to call the police.
The camera on the side door only has about a 45-degree arc. If you stay out of that, then we'll open it for you and you can come in then. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
You'll be out by the garbage, but they keep it, well... I mean, there's not too many rats back there.
It just means you have to wait here and hide and hope no one sees you. But I'm sure you can do that, Robert.
Yeah.
Place like this time of night, there's a very low chance you'll be spotted, but there are still a few cars in the car park. The motel is certainly not vacant tonight, and the car park is surrounded by the motel rooms themselves. They sort of surround the car park in a big U shape. 4 rooms on the bottom level, 4 rooms on the top level. There's every chance that someone might step out for a quick smoke, especially as you're pretty sure you can hear loud, contented, orgasmic moaning coming from at least one of the motel rooms. So, Robert, how would you like to do this? You've just fed. Are you really keen to call upon your obfuscate again, or would you just like to find a place to hide and hope you do a good enough job to remain hidden?
Yeah, he's not gonna spend any blood. Just try and find some dark enough corner and then use his cloak of shadows and just remain still and hope that stop. The only thing that should be able to see him would be the cameras, which hopefully he's not standing in line of sight of.
Yeah, well, Sirius told you where to go to avoid being caught in their line of sight. So you pay attention to her instructions and you end up crouching down between a big red rusted dumpster and someone's car. A car that's been here for a while based on the thick layer of dust coating the bodywork and the windows. Go ahead and make a wit stealth check for me. And add an extra dot for your silence of death. For your cloak of shadows.
So it's wit stealth, is it?
Wit stealth plus an extra dot for your silence of death.
No, I'm rerolling that. Cool. With a reroll, it comes up to 2 successes.
2 successes.
That kind of night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 2 success night. Luckily, I rolled 1 success. So you crouch down in your hiding spot as Wisteria and the others step into the motel through the sliding reception doors. You hear someone climax in one of the nearby rooms, and then the motel door opens, and out steps a man wearing nothing but red silk boxer shorts and a wife beater. He slides a cigarette into his lips and breathes a contented sigh as he lights it and takes a drag. Complete his gaze passing over you, where you hide, completely oblivious to the fact that you're even there. Wisteria, your automatic doors slide open and you step into the reception, such as it is. It's a very cramped room. There's barely enough room for the 4 vampires that have entered to stand together. There's no chairs, no formal waiting room. There's just a wooden counter with a single, very obese, balding, middle-aged man behind it. His eyes are glued to a portable black and white TV sitting on a shelf behind him. The reception is decorated with wallpaper that looks like it would have been at home in the 1970s. That awful off-green vomit cigarette mucus colour.
Alright. Let's see, it's 92. Okay. Wisteria puts the smile on her face, heads on up, pulls out the appropriate card, and slips a $50 bill along with it. The special suite will be booked tonight.
Go
and
ahead.
It won't be and nothing will be on record. Thank you.
The man looks over at you, only taking his eyes off the black and white television for a brief second. He slides the $50 bill across the counter and into his pocket. He nods and winks. He says, "Don't leave a mess."
Quite the opposite. Come on, then. We've got all night. We've got all day, she says to her fellow bloodsuckers, and practically skips along.
You lead them down the little narrow corridor that leads off from the reception room to the stairwell at the end that leads down to the basement, ignoring the placard on the door that says staff only, knowing that the staff of this establishment have been paid very well to indeed never set foot in the basement. You pull the door open and gesture for your fellow bloodsuckers to step down into your domain, and when they emerge at the bottom of the stairwell, what do they find?
This is a basic safe house. There's nothing illegal here at first glance, but there's a rack of clothing. Varying sizes. There's a actual makeup booth with the makeup kits next to it. And a few things which somebody who had enough streetwise could tell were disguise kits. There's a apartment suite off to the side, to the side, with a comfy-looking bed, a couch, a television, an antique-looking chess set that's probably worth more than the entire hotel, and a very primitive computer that Zarya can tell is that she just pretty much bought this and didn't really do anything with it. It's here.
There's
It's
a
out of the box.
There's
It's
a
an
couple.
apple.
Yeah, out of the box. It's going to require some work to get this to perform to your standards, Zarya, but it's a start. There's some
There's
big...
also-
Go ahead.
There's also a rack of mobile phones with different names and stickers on them,
Each of them as
And-
large as a brick.
and a bookshelf full of various books.
There's a couple big wooden crates shoved away in the corners, and when you ask Wisteria what these are, she just says, "Oh, some artworks. Artworks that have yet to find a home." You make your way over to the back of the safe house, where there's a little window up at street level that looks out onto the car park. Flip the latch and push it open, and a few seconds later, you see Robert scrambling through the gap and dropping down into the safe house.
Also, there's a bug-out bag by the door.
"Nice digs," says Gil, looking around. In spite of herself, Maleficent agrees. "A bit gauche, not the most luxurious, but I think we should be safe here."
It's not really meant for visitors, but we make do. And Wisteria, could you move that bookshelf in front of the window? Yes.
Gil turns to Barry. "Looks like I'm not the only one who had some dodgy dealings before all this began, huh?"
I'm sure I have no idea what you're talking about. Zarya, dear, speaking of dodgy dealings, can you copy that evidence tape that you found? Or put it
No, you-
onto a BBC or whatever it is that...
Well, that would be more difficult, given it would be a huge file. I can copy it as long as I can come up with 2 VCRs, basically.
Oh! Let me check the boxes. I've got one. She goes and starts riffling through boxes.
It's a Sanyo. It's a bit bulkier than the ones they sell now, but it's a VCR, and a quick search yields a second one, much older but still in working order.
Ah, right.
That'll work.
Special order. Phew. There
If
go.
you get it set up properly, Zarya, you could probably get the copying started. This is the 90s. There's not a lot of bandwidth, so it'll probably take most of the next day to fully copy, but you could set it up
I'll
and
have
just
to-
let it run while you sleep.
It'll take as long as the tape is, because I'm just going to hook up the recorder to
All right.
the output of the one. So,
How many dots in
anyone-
technology do you have, Zarya?
let me check. It's a lot. It's 3.
3, yeah. No, Zarya kneels over, she drags a cord from one VCR to the other, then she sits down in front of the Apple computer, grumbling under her breath as she turns it on, tries to make sense of where Wisteria's left all of the different software she uses, makes sense of the absolute cacophony of icons and shortcuts on the desktop that are befitting of any middle-aged woman's computer, and gets the process started.
So are we trying to share with something on the tape online? Is that the intention here?
Not exactly. I want a copy of this that we can mail to my man. So I have blackmail against the vampires of this city if they try to kill me.
Sounds like a plan. So yeah, I'm just gonna make a physical copy
Because
of the
we've
tape.
been told we're a walking crime. So if that
Yeah.
red-haired bint tries to escape justice or throw us under the lorry, then I want something to make sure she sees the wheel wells.
I see.
I want leverage.
Glad someone's thinking about stuff like that, says Gil, clearly out of his element.
Now, this is all guesswork and conjecture, but I'm pretty certain that the vampire police will be around at some point.
No, we got him right here, says Gil, pointing at Barry.
No, I mean... Listen. The shower's right next to the hot water heater. There's quite a lot. I made sure of that. Does anyone want it? I'll take it last.
Before we wind down, says Gil, Barry, you got that tape with the number plate, right? You still remember that, yeah?
Yeah, I've still got it. Robert, do you still have it?
You got a tape too?
No, we cribbed one from the van back at Barry's house. Robert got through it. We got a number plate that Barry's gonna try to trace, I think, he says, looking at Barry. You, remember what Julian said, stay away from people that used to know us. You really think it's a wise idea to call up your copper mates?
Might be the last time I do.
He shrugs. I suppose if it's only over the phone or what have you, no harm done.
Take this one, it's disposable.
Just gingerly grabs it. So you're
And who do you dial?
I think I'll just dial the station, just the person on call there.
Yeah. You don't know the person who mans dispatch. You rarely have a reason to call them. You're a detective and you have a reputation for working on your own. The woman answers. You recognize her voice. Familiar enough, but you can't quite remember her name. And when she answers, what do you say?
This is Detective Barry Marwood.
Detective Marwood? Are you aware that you're currently listed as a missing person?
When was that report filed?
You hear the clack of typewriter keys in the background, and then the woman says, rifling through a stack of paper somewhere on her desk, "But last night, you clocked out of work, but you didn't turn up for your shift yesterday morning. There was a camera crew was meant to do a ride-along with you. They ended up heading out with Inspector Jones, but as I understand it, a number of people have been trying to get in touch with you, and the sergeant's not gonna be happy."
I'm sorry, something came up. I just need you to do one thing for me.
Something came up? You feel like she's about to give you a piece of her mind, and then she thinks something of it. You can almost see her pursing her lips on the other side of the phone as she sighs and says, "Alright, what can I do for you, detective?"
Can you run the number plate AZH124?
AZH124. You hear her typing on the typewriter in the background, making note of it, beginning to type up the beginnings of an alert. "Sure," she says. "Can I ask, what the suspect is caught up in? I mean, this is obviously urgent. You haven't contacted us for over 24 hours, and then suddenly you want to run plates. It's clear something's going on. The sergeant's going to ask."
It's related to a case, and it's all you need to know. Now,
An ongoing
are you gonna
case?
keep me on the line here and waste my time, or are you going to do what you're told?
I'll do what I'm told, she says, but the Sarge is going to ask...
Give me the information now.
Look, I can send it to the Sarge, get it pulled right away, but you're going to have to explain where you've been. Otherwise, if you're prepared to wait... I'll keep it out. I'll make sure the Sarge doesn't ask anything, she says. I guess you're undercover right now. Important no one knows where you are, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Alright, I'll see what I can do. I know a couple of officers who might not ask questions. I'll try to get in touch with you sometime in the next day, alright? Not promising anything. If you're not willing to go through the proper channels, you're gonna have to wait.
What if I... No. Alright, call me back on this number.
You got it, she says, and before she hangs up, the tone of her voice changes. She takes a deep breath and she says, and Barry, whatever you're caught up in, be careful, okay?
I'll just hang up.
There's a click. The line falls dead. You turn to the others and suddenly each of you feels exhaustion. It strikes suddenly. At first, nothing more than a yawn, and then suddenly your entire body begins to feel heavy, limp. It's almost 5 in the morning, and the earliest rays of sunlight are just starting to glimmer on the periphery of the sky outside. Wisteria, what arrangements have you made for which the coterie can sleep in comfort, if any?
Well, after a bloody crying jag in the shower where nobody could see her and watching the blood run down the drain, she freshens up, comes out. She's taking the bed, of course, but the side room, which is full of quite a lot of boxes that she doesn't explain, has blankets spread out, and the boxes are shoved between them and the door.
And then, within minutes, the basement safe house is silent. You barely have time to scramble for the nearest chair, the nearest mat on the floor. Some of you, so exhausted, you pretty much collapse on the spot. The day sleep comes suddenly, heavy, takes no prisoners, no resistance. The unconsciousness appears from the abyss and engulfs you in a fraction of a second. The basement safe house is silent as 5 vampires succumb to the day sleep. Nothing more than putrid, languid corpses, slumbering monsters who somehow have managed to survive their first night in the world of darkness. The tape recorder grinds away, and the hard drive of the Apple computer groans, clicks, and sputters. But you're all unaware. Your consciousnesses lock in the impenetrable blackness. And that's where we'll leave it for this week. But before we go, there are several things we need to take care of. The first time you've bunked down for the night, your very first day sleep, and in your last moments of consciousness, the full weight of the night's activities catches up to you. A torrent of memories floods your psyche as you begin to replay the events of the night, the events of your first night. The events of your first night as monsters. Barry, what are your convictions? If I may ask.
My convictions are that justice must be served. to never sell out a friend, and if they hit you, hit them harder.
Well, I think you followed all of those tonight. You didn't break a single one. And you also tried to stop Zarya and Gil when they set upon that jogger in the park. Your humanity, this night at least, is assured. Zarya, Wisteria, and Gil, however,
Yep.
you either took a life or you contributed to the taking of a life. You either drained someone's lifeblood or stood there doing nothing as someone else did, lost in frenzy. I would like Zarya and Wisteria to each go ahead and roll a single dice. You have a single stain, and as newly embraced vampires, your humanity is currently 8.
Oh, well.
Success.
Success.
Yes. One for you as well, Wisteria?
I did roll.
Yeah, success.
That was success.
Both of you scrub your stains away. Your humanity remains at 8 for now.
We regret.
Before your consciousness fades away, before it's engulfed in the darkness of the day sleep, you see those faces. You see those people in their last moments. Feel them once again take their final breaths. Feel and hear the death rattles as you drain their life force away. You're monsters, but if you had the choice, you wouldn't have been. And you endeavour to make sure it never happens again. Robert, what are your convictions?
At the moment, I've only got all information has a cost.
All information has a cost. Yeah. You fed on animals when you first awoke. And when you hunted earlier tonight, you took great care to leave no trace, to clean up your messes, to ensure that you didn't become a monster and your humanity remains intact. Sometimes monsters take lives. Sometimes they destroy. Sometimes they pollute. Sometimes they stain their souls. That's what you need to do to survive. That's what life has become for creatures such as we. You all gain 2 experience points for a session well done.
Creatures Such as We is a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat. Creatures Such as We is based on a sourcebook by Brian Holland, available at the Storyteller's Vault. Vampire the Masquerade rules are developed by Onyx Path Publishing and Paradox Interactive and published by Renegade Studios. Portions of the materials are the copyrights and trademarks of Paradox Interactive AB and are used with permission. All rights are reserved. For more information, please visit worldofdarkness.com. The music used in this podcast is composed by Kevin MacLeod, Whitebat Audio, and Ivan Duke, and is used with permission.